who really cares? You know, she's hot. Go ahead, Stephanie, eat whatever you want. We've all kind of given up, you know, when you started doing this all-in thing. It's clear that like you don't have the goal of being a super fit person. What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to review Stephanie Buttermore's new video where she talks about her struggles with food in quarantine. I've actually already watched this video, and I want to give you kind of a preview going into it, if you haven't seen it, that this video is basically her talking about her struggles with food in quarantine and not being hard on herself, I guess, and encouraging other people to also not be hard on themselves. And really kind of, the overall message is like, we're all in quarantine, it sucks, and it's okay if you let yourself go because I'm letting myself go. Which is very kind of on point with her like all-in brand kind of thing that she's got going on. But anyway, let's jump right into the video.
Are you stuck at home all day? Does it feel like you can't escape food while you're in quarantine? Well, trust me, you're not alone.
Yeah. See my peanut butter jelly snack, pull it ride, busty painting. That's my sunshine.
All right, so the intro of the video is very cute, right? Like this video is not going to be a nice video about Stephanie. Like I'm probably not going to say nice things. You know, I'm sorry ahead of time if you're her fan. However, I will say right now that I don't think that this is she's not trying to be a bad person, I guess. I think the advice that she's giving from like a professional standpoint is irresponsible for most people. But you can tell that like she's actually trying to help people. I don't think I don't think that it's the right advice to give people, but like I said, you can see that it's coming from a good place, right? She's trying to be cheeky, she's trying to be funny. Here I am, you know, eating these snacks on the couch. Now I've brought a bowl of snacks in the shower. I'm just eating all the time because I'm out of control and I just don't care.
The at-home program that I've been working on basically since the end of December is finally live. It's going to be 6 programs ranging from beginner to advanced level lifters, and it's going to be half off for the launch. So if you're interested and want more information about it, there will be a link down below in the description box.
Okay, and then she starts talking about a fitness program that she has released and has been working on since December, which just happens to be an at-home training program. Now, like, of course, we all want to make our money. If you're in the fitness industry, you're going to, I guess, release a program if you're on YouTube because it's just kind of what people do. But as you'll see later in the video, it just seems kind of strange how you're going to spend the entire video talking about how it's okay to eat whatever you want and not beat yourself up about it. In the beginning of the video, you're going to announce the launch of your fitness program. So it just seems there's like a little bit of a disconnect there. Like, you know, why would somebody buy your fitness program when you're giving such like bad nutritional advice, I guess. But obviously the reason is that anybody who buys her program is really just buying it because they like her and because she's hot and not because they think that like it's a good program. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. That's just kind of the impression that I got.
This quarantine could forever change your relationship with food, whether you've struggled with food in the past historically or not.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I don't like about just people, how they communicate in general, and specifically the like eating disorder community. And that is that they use a lot of vague, non-descriptive language to describe what their actual problem is, instead of describing their problem in literal terms. Case in point here, she talks about this could forever change your relationship with food. Well, what does that actually mean? What is your relationship with food? Are you dating a banana? Are you friends with a pineapple? Like what does that actually mean? That's, if we take that in literal terms, it makes absolutely no sense because we don't actually have relationships with food. We eat food, right? We buy food and we eat it and we digest it. That's what we actually do. In my experience, the eating disorder community does this a lot with the way that they describe their problem. Now, if she wanted to describe it in literal terms, she would have said something like, during this quarantine, you will probably be eating more frequently, and you will probably be eating foods that are not, you know, that are less healthy. You might be eating a lot of processed snack foods, which will make you gain weight. And depending on how long this quarantine lasts, these bad these negative behaviors, I guess, even though that's kind of vague, these negative behaviors might be repeated for a long enough time that it's going to become a habit, and you're going to get fat and you're going to hate yourself, right? That sounds like, to me, what would be a literal explanation of what she's actually trying to convey here. But again, she doesn't want the video to be 30 minutes long, because then who would watch it, right? So she sums that up in a very quick little phrase: it could forever change your relationship with food. Now, the problem with this is that because it's not an accurate description of what the problem actually is, like the way that I explained it, the way that she explained it, it has no solution. There's no solution to a bad relationship with food. However, the way that I explained it, eating too much and eating foods that are not good, that are going to make you get fat, there's a very clear solution to that problem.
And I can't tell you exactly what to do at a time like this, because everyone does have their own unique situation, but I think I can offer some guidance or tips, and I'll also tell you guys how I've been dealing with quarantine as someone who is all in.
All right, so if you've seen any of my other videos that I made about Stephanie Buttermore, you know I'm not a fan of this all-in thing, for the very simple reason that it is not the optimal solution. Now, in the past, I criticized her because she did not choose the optimal solution, which is kind of common sense to most people. If you ask anybody on the street and you say, how do you get into very good shape? Generally, people will say you have to eat healthy food and you have to exercise, right? That does not seem to be a concept that like people don't know about. That everybody knows that, right? Now, that aside, you have this idea of going all in, right? Which is where you start over, and I'm going to pop up a little graphic to make this as clear as possible. Let's say there are 10 different starting situations that you can have. One of them is anorexic, one of them is bulimic, one of them is skinny fat. I'm just kind of throwing out names here. It doesn't really matter what they are, but let's just categorize them as like less than desirable situations. And then you have the desirable situation, which is fit, healthy, looking good, and feeling good, right? Let's just kind of say that that's the desirable situation. Now, the path to get from an undesirable situation to a desirable one, there is one path that is the ideal path, and that is to eat a normal amount of foods that are healthy, right? You want to eat certain amount of meat, you want to eat a certain amount of eggs, you want to eat vegetables, you want to eat fruits. You don't want to eat, or you want to minimize the amount of chips and cookies and processed food and candy and stuff like that you eat. That, again, is common sense. However, the problem with this all-in stuff is that it takes a completely convoluted route to get to where you actually want to go, which is being fit and healthy. And you're kind of taking a chance that maybe after going all in and just doing whatever you want, maybe you will actually find the correct path, which is what I said earlier, where you just eat normal amounts of food and you exercise a normal amount as well. So the question is like, why would you do all this? What is the reason for doing this? And there's two solutions that I've come up with. The first solution is because you don't actually care and you really just want to eat whatever you want. And the second solution is because it's like a marketing thing for your brand, where you want to appeal to people who were in your situation, where they starved themselves and they worked out too much, and now you're kind of coming to them with this branded approach of saying like, hey, I'm going all in and this is what I'm doing. I don't recommend that you do this, but I just came out with a new fitness program, link in the description.
But worldwide pandemic or not, as somebody who is all in, I eat when I feel hungry because I've given myself that unconditional permission to eat regardless of the environment, regardless of the situation, and even regardless if I'm actually hungry or not. It just completely throws all food guilt out the window.
All right, now I think it's very interesting that she talks about guilt, and I think that feeling guilty about binging or eating unhealthy food or eating in general, I think that actually is very important, because when you feel guilty about eating something unhealthy, you're more likely to continue eating more unhealthy foods. Whereas if you don't feel guilty, and this is backed up by a study, maybe I'll pop that up somewhere if I can find it. If you don't feel guilty after eating unhealthy food, it's much easier for you to stick to a diet, right? It's all based off a study where people ate at a buffet, and that was the result that they came to. So in this case, I do think it is important that she brought that up. However, like I said earlier, this is not the optimal solution, right? Just because you experience guilt sometimes when you eat unhealthy food, that does not mean that the answer to that is to just eat whatever you want. right? If your goal is to be as healthy as possible and be lean and look good. If your goal is to eliminate the food guilt, which that seems to be actually what her goal is, and we'll talk about that, why that's not a good goal in a minute. If that is your goal, then that is an acceptable course of action, I guess.
And of course, I've heard people tell me that's mental hunger, not physical hunger. And yeah, that's great and all, but it honestly means nothing to me, especially would have meant nothing to extreme hunger, Stephanie.
Okay, so this idea of extreme hunger is not a valid reason to go all in. If you haven't seen any of her other videos, go watch them, subscribe to her channel, blah, blah, blah. She's amazing. She pushed this idea that she has extreme hunger and that's why she does these cheat days. The point is this, right? Putting all of that aside, if you eat the right foods and you eat them until you can't eat anymore, you will have consumed a not very small amount of calories. You will have consumed a normal amount of calories in proportion to like what your body needs, and you will not overeat. You will not binge. For example, try and eat 10,000 calories of eggs, right? Which is, I believe, almost 150 eggs. That's virtually impossible. And I highly doubt Stephanie Buttermore or any other person who claims they have extreme hunger can eat over 100 eggs or even 20 eggs. Like, good luck, really. Good luck with that. However, if you eat donuts and cookies and chocolate and all this processed carb-heavy, high-sugar food, it's very easy to get to that point where you're consuming a lot of that food. So what does this mean? This means that the problem is not that you have extreme hunger. The problem is that you are not consuming the correct foods, which in my opinion, I've said this in many videos, the correct foods are mostly meat and or eggs, with vegetables and fruit and really anything that's I guess natural, but making it a point to eat lots of meat and eggs as well.
What going all in has done for me, well, it fixed my extreme hunger. And going through this quarantine with an abundance of food, it's not really that different than before the quarantine.
All right, so then she shows us her pantry, which does not have a lot of good food in it. Now, that said, it is the pantry, and the pantry is generally where you keep foods that are less healthy. We see here she's got Oreo Thins, chocolate marshmallow, Pop-Tarts, Kit Kats, a lot of comfort food. And that aligns very well with the message that she is spreading, which is that you should feel good all the time with food. When it comes to food, you should never experience any sort of negative emotions, which I think is incorrect, because pain is we experience pain because our body is trying to tell us something, or our mind is trying to tell us something. Now, the problem is that when you associate pain with food, it's very uncomfortable because you have to eat and there's really nothing you can do about that. So the answer is not to go quote unquote all in and eat all of whatever you want, Pop-Tarts, Oreos, cookies, Kit Kat bars. The solution, again, like I said, is to choose the right foods and make sure that you eat those. And then afterwards, if you're still hungry, if you are working out, if you have worked out hard enough to, deserve some of those foods, then go ahead, you can eat them. But the problem is that, and this is what I was getting to earlier, the problem is that in our society, specific among female girls, female girls, not male girls, female girls who have eating disorders, is that they are handled with such care, which is everyone is so afraid to say anything bad about them. There's all this trigger warning stuff. I hope I don't trigger you. Some of these foods may be triggering. It's like, why don't you own your shit and just go eat normal food? Like, why don't you eat more chicken? Why don't you actually go to the gym and exercise instead of going to pieces anytime somebody makes any sort of comment, not even necessarily towards you, about food and how, guess what? Maybe you shouldn't be eating Oreos. Maybe your pantry shouldn't be full of Pop-Tarts and Kit Kats. But that's really the problem here, is that we have this apparently entire community of like eating disorder people, I guess, mainly girls, who are so afraid of any sort of negative emotion when it comes to food, because they have not chosen the correct path in achieving a healthy body and a good look, which is eating, meat and eggs and vegetables and fruit and exercising for whatever reason.
And honestly, if I had gone all in when it was a quarantine, it probably would have been so much easier because I was gaining a lot of weight and I was eating so much food. And during quarantine, you're not really seeing a ton of people right now. So I don't know, it's just something that I've been thinking about.
Okay, now I will say she does have a point there. We are in quarantine. You're not really going out unless you're one of these people where you regularly post pictures or videos of yourself on social media. Nobody is seeing you aside from the people at the grocery store and the people who live in your house. So you could make the argument that if you are going to be relaxed in your discipline and gain weight, now is the time to do it. However, why would you ever do that anyway? Like, logically speaking, from a theoretical standpoint, why would you ever make any sort of excuse to have a pantry full of those types of foods and openly acknowledge the fact that you're gaining weight and you shouldn't care about it? You really shouldn't, right? From a practical standpoint, nobody should ever do that. The reason that this message is accepted in any way is because it's not a sexy message to say you should be disciplined, you should beat yourself up if you eat, crappy foods like that. That's not a sexy message. What's a much sexier message, and you can go read the comments on her videos if you want, proof of this, is it's okay, girl, like, go ahead, eat whatever you want. I'm doing it. I'm getting fat. We're all in quarantine anyway, so it doesn't matter. Which, again, like I said, like, at the end of the day, who really cares? She's hot. Go ahead, Stephanie, eat whatever you want. We've all kind of given up, when you started doing this all in thing. It's clear that, like, you don't have the goal of being a super fit person, and anybody else who does this, it's obviously clear that you don't have that goal either. Really, I guess is the end of it. So if that's what you want to do, go ahead, do that. But this, don't make it seem like this is a healthy choice. It's not a healthy choice. And I don't know, did she say that? She might not have said that. It just seems a little inconsistent when on the one hand you release an exercise program, and on the other hand you have, like, the other half of the fitness equation being completely missing, where you've got a pantry full of unhealthy food.
Again, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. If you do need help, I recommend going to see a specialist or get some coaching, but maybe I can help ease your racing mind and help people who are really struggling with food right now.
Okay, so first of all, let me just say this. If you are a girl with an eating disorder, you're anorexic, you're bulimic, you have a binge eating problem, you over-exercise, whatever your problem is, and you actually want help, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on my social media, leave me a comment, send me an email. I put all that information in the description of this video. I won't charge you $1. I'll even be very nice to you. Well, I'll be civil, at least. I won't make you feel bad, I guess. Maybe a little bit, but not in a mean way, just in a practical way. That's number one. I'm going to leave that at that. Number two, this whole idea of you should not beat yourself up for eating more. I mean, I guess in theory that's technically true. You should not beat yourself up, because then that would lead to guilt, and feeling guilty, like I mentioned earlier, would lead to a much worse outcome. Because when you feel guilty, you're going to take it even further, because we have this idea in our heads of, like, okay, I just ate a box of cookies. My diet's obviously ruined for the day. I might as well go crazy today, and I'll just start again tomorrow, or I'll start again next week. That's something that everybody experiences. I've experienced that many times. Any person any human being really who's ever tried a diet has experienced that. But the problem is that, in fitness and in health, every little bit helps. And every little bit helps. And conversely, on the other side of that, if you let your discipline slip a little bit in one area, you will let it slip in other areas, because you'll continue to make excuses because you've already slipped up once. So this idea of, like, if you've eaten more food, don't beat yourself up about it. I mean, it depends what your goals are, I guess. If your goal is to feel good about food all the time and never experience any sort of negative emotion about food, like our friend Stephanie here, that is her goal, right? Stephanie's goal is not to be fit and healthy, or as fit and healthy as possible, or reasonably fit and healthy with a minimal amount of body fat. Her goal is to eat whatever she wants, so she doesn't feel bad about eating, and she doesn't feel bad about how her body looks. That is her goal. If that is your goal, and I think that's a very inefficient goal for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, because it's not the not the fastest way to get to a solution or the ideal solution. If that is your goal, go ahead, do what she does, go for it. But that's a stupid goal. Why would you have that goal?
So the first problem that you might be encountering is that you might be eating more than usual right now. This could be because of the proximity to the kitchen, possibly you are bored, or you're procrastinating, or you're just stressed and just want some freaking ice cream. So to that I say, right now in these really strange times, just please, please, please be more kind to yourself.
Okay, so again, this is more of the like, everybody, it's okay to feel good. You should just feel good all the time. Don't beat yourself up. Why wouldn't you beat yourself up about doing something incorrect? What's the problem here is that you see this a lot with the on the other side of the spectrum, the fat acceptance people, where they say like, how dare you criticize me? I'm doing whatever I want and it's okay because every choice is a valid choice and there's no right or wrong when it comes to nutrition or health. It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, I can't believe I even just repeated that. But that's what they're saying. And this is very similar to that. Because, I mean, if you don't beat yourself up for making the wrong decisions, then when will you ever make the right decision? This is very similar to if you have a credit card and you're just spending money out of control on this credit card and you never check your balance. Like, oh, it's okay. You went to the mall, you went shopping again. You ran up your credit card by like another $500. But you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't check your balance. It's not a big deal. It'll only make you feel bad. Just keep shopping.
So the next problem that you might be dealing with is not necessarily how much you're eating, but that you might not have complete control of what you are eating.
Okay, so anorexic girls of YouTube or bulimic or whatever your problem is, let me ask you a question. Are you being physically restrained at home and there are people around you who are opening your mouth and shoving food in your mouth and making you eat it? No? Then you have control over what you eat. For example, you're at home, your parents are buying food, you do have control. You can say, hey mom, can you buy this food? Can you buy some chicken? Can you buy some vegetables? If they say no, I guess you could go get a job and you can go, plenty of places are hiring right now. You can go get a job and you can get money and you can buy whatever food you want. This whole idea of not having control over what you eat, this again is overall the same theme, which is basically like, I'm going to make whatever choice I want. I don't want to feel bad about it at all. And I'm going to justify these choices by making every excuse that I possibly can, like I don't have control over what I'm doing. Oh, sorry, everybody. I don't have control over it. You know, I guess I just don't have control, so I can't be blamed for my own actions. It's completely ridiculous.
The way the world is right now is literally out of anyone's control. So it would just make things a lot easier if you were just less rigid with your diet.
Okay, this whole thing about the world, nobody knowing where it's going to go, that's actually true. Nobody knows how long this is going to last. So does it make sense now to start forming these bad habits when it comes to nutrition? It doesn't really make sense. Now, let me make it clear. I don't really care what anybody does. I really don't. Like, you want to go and eat whatever you want, like, go ahead, live your life. But if you're giving advice, you know, if I'm reviewing this and I'm making the judgment call, I'm saying, is this good advice for people who want to like be healthy and get in shape? This is awful advice. You don't know how long quarantine is going to last. You don't know when the world is going to go back to normal. You don't know how long you're going to have to stay at home. So does it make sense to do this now? It doesn't make any sense. About the clip that she showed earlier about grocery stores being out of chicken, if you live in the United States, you have at least 10 grocery stores within a 5-mile radius or 10-mile radius. You can go to one of those grocery stores and one of those grocery stores will have chicken. One of them will have eggs. One of them will have some sort of healthy food that you can eat. I promise you, she does not have Kit Kats and Pop-Tarts and wrapper snacks or whatever those things are called because that's the only food in the grocery store. This, again, is just making more excuses. It's completely avoiding responsibility for making the right choice in this case and refusing to even acknowledge that there is a right choice when it comes to nutrition. Because people who have an eating disorder, they love the victim mentality and they don't want to accept any responsibility for taking an active step to change their problem or find a solution to their problem. I honestly don't know why. Probably because they haven't seen my videos and they do not know exactly what they need to do, which, let me make it clear again, to eat lots of meat and eggs and vegetables and fruits and exercise.
The next thing is definitely a biggie. So what goes hand in hand with food? That is exercise. And I know this is something that a lot of us are struggling with at the moment. It's like a historical moment that we cannot go to the gym. I mean, there's definitely times that I don't want to go to the gym, but the fact that I can't is a hard thing to swallow because nobody likes being told what to do. But exercise is a tricky one. So I say if you love exercising and it's a stress reliever and it makes you a lot less focused on all the problems that are going on in the world, all the stress that you currently have, and just less focused on all that mess, I personally think that you should find a way to move your body in a way that you enjoy.
Okay, so this idea of exercise, it's surprising to me of this, like, to exercise or not exercise, right? Like as if it's some sort of as if it's a choice that anybody should have to make, of like, well, yeah, I guess, I just shouldn't exercise now because gyms are closed. I mean, why wouldn't you? Does your body stop being exactly the same just because a building with metal in it that you can lift up and down is not allowing you to enter that building and lift that metal up and down? Your body somehow is different now? No, of course not. But the whole idea of this video and I don't know about every video, but the entirety of this video is that it basically says, I'm not doing these things. I'm not really working out if I don't want to. I'm eating whatever I want, and I don't really care. And I'm giving you, I guess, license to do it as well because I'm doing it, and here's how I mentally justify that. So, like, if that's you, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just choose the more ideal solution, which is to eat a normal amount of healthy food and exercise? You'll live longer, you'll be happier, you'll be in a better mood, and you will look better, and like everything in your life will be better. Why wouldn't you choose that? Really, why wouldn't you choose that? I actually don't understand. I actually don't know why anybody would not choose that. For me, I exercise so I don't feel bad. I don't exercise to feel good, because everybody pretty much feels bad all the time, right? Us as human beings, we have this underlying feeling pretty much our entire lives where there's something missing, right? We're always striving for something else. We've just kind of evolved that way. And if we hadn't evolved that way, then we'd still be living in caves. But we've evolved this feeling where just it's never enough for us, right? It's not a flaw. Like, there's good and bad about every, trait of humanity. But we never really feel like we're enough or we've got enough. And that's kind of the curse of being alive, which is that we're always a little bit depressed. We're always a little bit anxious. And exercise is something that alleviates that. You get the endorphin rush. You're distracted momentarily when you do whatever you do to get fit. And it's a net gain.
If you are feeling very stressed, this might not be the best time for you to exercise, especially if you're the type of person where exercise is like a type of chore and you don't really find a lot of joy in it and you feel like more stressed when you have to exercise. Now might not be the best time. You need to think about your health and keep yourself healthy right now. And overstressing can actually be detrimental to your health. And for me, resting was actually one of the most pivotal points in my all-in journey.
All right, so this whole idea about resting kind of showed me that these videos that she makes about All In, these are really for a specific type of person who, I'm going to just come up with this off the top of my head based on what I've seen of her videos. Basically, these videos are for the type of person that she was before she went all in, where you exercise too much and you undereat, and then you occasionally binge and have cheat days, and you're just obsessed with the way you look, and you are really kind of undernourished and struggling mentally and physically because of being undernourished. So this idea of rest, this is not for normal people, really, who have like a healthy lifestyle. This is for people, or unhealthy people who have a bad lifestyle. This is for people who exercise too much and they undereat and they're obsessed with how they look and they're basically anorexic, right? The idea of like, when you tell those people to rest, it means like, stop doing 4 hours a day of cardio and like just chill and let your body recover from running it into the ground like you've been, training 8 days a week for 6 hours a day, only doing cardio and not building any muscle because you want your like clavicle to stick out at least 2 inches in your Instagram photos.
And in either scenario, whether you decide to exercise or not, I just want to really reiterate to you, maybe so you feel a lot less FOMO, that nobody can go to the gym right now. So you're definitely not alone.
All right, so this idea of like nobody can do it, so you shouldn't really feel bad. That's not a good reason to not do it. Most people, if you think about it, most people are fat, most people are stupid, most people are broke, most people are not in any situation that you would ever want to envy. You would not want to trade places with most people, because most people, statistically speaking, are not the cream of the crop. They're not excellent in any way. Like, sorry if that offends some people, but it is what it is. Most people have not achieved a high level of anything. So it's not really a good argument that like nobody else is doing it, so you shouldn't feel bad about not doing it either. Again, this is the whole idea. Like, this whole video is basically her, I feel, talking to herself and saying like, well, here's my justification for eating whatever I want, not exercising. And now I'm going to repeat my justification to you as advice, because these are the same things that I tell myself to not feel bad about completely letting myself go during quarantine.
And the next issue is definitely something I've mentioned before, but it is more prevalent now more than ever, now that we're all at home all day long, all the time, all surrounded by our full-length selfie mirrors. You have to stop body checking.
All right, so this idea of not constantly checking yourself in the mirror, I think, is also bad advice, really. Again, this comes down to the same thing that I said earlier, where this advice is geared towards a specific person, somebody who undereats, overexercises, is obsessed with the way they look, and is running their health into the ground as a result. However, if you simply follow my easy plan of like, and again, I've said this a bazillion times, I'm going to say it again, eat mostly meat and eggs, eat some vegetables and fruits, eat mainly natural food, eat once a day, and exercise with some sort of anaerobic activity, right? That's really it. That will solve many of your like anorexic problems, people out there. But what her advice is for those types of people. But again, like I said earlier, this is very similar to, let's say you are broke or you're in debt. This is like saying to somebody, you know what, you don't need to check your bank balance. Just keep shopping. Just go to the mall. Just like keep running up those credit card bills. If you keep checking your balance and how much you owe, you're just going to make yourself more and more stressed out. So like, don't worry about it. Just keep doing whatever you're going to do. Just go keep shopping. You don't need to check it anymore. Don't check your balance. It'll only make you feel bad, which, where I said earlier, like if your goal is to not feel bad about making the wrong choice, then I guess this is good advice. But if your goal is to actually like improve your health in some way and move yourself closer to having a nice body and being healthy and fit and attractive, and most important of all, like mentally balanced and happy, then this is not the right choice. This is not what you should do.
And if you're struggling with anything, even things that I didn't even mention, now might be a good time to start journaling. I know I preach about it all the time, but it helped me so much in hard times. It might be something that could really ease your mind if you just put your thoughts down on paper. You can literally write the most ridiculous stuff in there, which I did all the time. I gave myself little pep talks, I gave myself daily words of encouragement, and a lot of the things probably sounded so dumb out loud, but I wrote them down and it really helped me a lot.
All right, to her point that she said about journaling, I guess at the end of this video, I will throw her a bone and I will say, yes, journaling is a good idea and you should journal. Everybody should journal. It's a very good way to get all of your thoughts onto paper and to clarify a lot of things for yourself, especially if you are feeling stressed. I journal every day. I find it immensely helpful. And I will throw her another bone right now. I'm not sure if I said this at the beginning of this video, but I will say it right now. I do believe that she has the best intentions. I do believe that she actually does want to help people. I mean, of course, there is a little bit of like, let me promote myself and let me get, attention from people on the internet and let me like sell my diet plan. Of course, there's that too, right? And I could be completely fooled also, but I actually do believe that she made this video with the intent of helping people who are in a similar situation to how she was in when she would, like before she went all in, and maybe now like girls who are upset that they're eating too much while they're in quarantine and not burning it off like they normally would. So 2 bones she's been thrown right now. However, I want to sum this up the end of the video, and I want to say again, let me reiterate the point that I made earlier, which is that if you break it down to its most simple terms, right, you break it down to a literal explanation of what the problem is. You are in an unfavorable situation right now in terms of your health. Maybe you're fat, maybe you're anorexic, maybe you're bulimic, you're just not in good shape. To get into good shape, there is only one path that will get you there. That one path is eating nutrient-dense foods like meat and eggs. mainly those foods with other things like vegetables and fruits and really just any sort of whole natural food, and exercise, right? Some combination of anaerobic and aerobic exercise. That is the only path that will get you to actually being healthy and looking good and being fit and being mentally balanced. That is the only path. It is not going all in. It is not going vegan. It is not going carnivore. It is not buying P90X. Well, I guess that would help, but it is not any of these one little tactical choices that you will make. That is the overall broad choice that one needs to make in order to actually be healthy in all of the ways that I said earlier. So if that's you, why wouldn't you just choose the simple choice in the beginning? Why wouldn't you just choose to go and eat a normal amount of healthy natural foods that are nutrient dense, that will give your body everything that it needs to do all of the things that it needs to do at a high level? Why wouldn't you go and exercise on a regular basis? Why would you take this roundabout way of ruining your health temporarily in hopes that maybe someday in the future you might accidentally stumble on the correct solution, while meanwhile you're spending all this time building all of these negative habits as a result of you like letting your discipline slip and getting lots of approval on social media for having your discipline slip. That's it. I'm done. I could keep going about this, but I'm not going to. Tell me, what do you think about that? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Stephanie Buttermore? Am I a terrible person for voicing my opinion? Are you actually an anorexic girl with an eating disorder and you think I'm a jerk? Or do you actually want my help? Like I said, my offer still stands. Let me know. Leave me a comment. Send me an email. I'd love to help you out. Peace.